Hi, and welcome to another episode of Sartorial Talks. Usually we choose our own subjects on Sartorial Talks, but today I've been commissioned with a particular subject to talk about with you, and that is men in their clothes and what women think. I have a background in science and research, so in this discussion I will just touch on research and then interject my personal reflection where it's applicable. So let's give it a go and see what you think. Carl Jung, I don't know what you think about him, but one thing that he talked about was a person's persona. It's very simple. Persona is simply your outer self. So you have your inner self, which you keep sort of on a personal level just with you, and you may not show so much to the public until you feel comfortable doing so. But everyone has an outer self, and we refer to that as the persona. If you think about what you want to do with your outer self, it would be to somehow reconcile what's inside you with what's outside you. And that's what we're doing in the world of style. We're really trying to communicate what's inside us by presenting ourselves in a certain way. Some people are more serious about the endeavor, and other people take it very lightly and aren't so concerned with it. But if you're watching today, I suppose you are interested in the subject. So let's start with some research. Let's hear from women and see what they're telling the guys. The first research is by a company called Ariel, and you may know this as a detergent company, which obviously would be interested in the subject of clothing. They interviewed 2,000 women, and they asked them what they felt the importance of men's clothes was in their attitudes towards men in terms of whether they would have a conversation with them or go out with them. And so what they learned in this study is that 28% of the women declined a date simply based on the way a man was dressed. Obviously they thought it was offensive or boring or not elegant in the way he dressed. So almost a third declined a date based on how a man dressed. The next finding was that 60% said that a man's taste in clothes was one of the top deal breakers in terms of whether she would decide to go out with a guy or not. So again, it's a very interesting point when you're talking about a sample size of 2,000 women. The second study was done by Men's Health magazine, which I'm sure you've heard of. They interviewed 1,000 women. The age was 21 to 54, and these women confirmed that sense of style was one of the top 10 traits they looked for in a man. Third study was by Kelton, and Hugo likes to quote this study because it's quite fascinating. I have no sample size for this, sorry. But in this study, 85% of the women said that a well-dressed man was one of the key things that they looked for in determining whether to spend time with a man or not. But most interesting of all is 80%, 8 out of 10 women said they would give up one of these three things. It wasn't broken down to which one, but they would give up for an entire year going out to dinner or using their cell phone or having intimate relations with a man for 1 year in exchange for a more stylish guy. Okay, that's a pretty strong affirmation. I don't know why they didn't break down whether it was dinner, the cell phone, or intimate relations, but it would be curious to see that breakdown. At this point, I hope that you're having a little bit of fun because I certainly enjoyed looking at these studies and seeing the conclusions. But the fourth study was by Townsend and Levy, and it was by the Journal of Psychology. And by the way, all these studies have been done in the last decade, so we're not talking about a study from the 50s or some type of outdated study. These are recent studies. In the Townsend and Levy study, the conclusion was, based upon a significant sample size, that a high status attire of men were perceived by women as something that would induce them to either have a conversation, coffee, ranging all the way up to serious involvement or marriage with a man. So high status attire is a very interesting factor when it comes to influencing women. Finally, as a side note, we had a study by the University of Rochester in Munich, Germany. And the question was, what color do you think a man should wear in terms of having more of a attraction quality in a guy? The way they did the study is they had the men wear different colors of polo shirts, same man, different polo shirts. And it was overwhelming that red was the preferred color in terms of sexual appeal and wanting to spend time with the opposite sex. One thing you might do is put a red pocket square in. So what we're talking about here is just enjoying the company of women and hopefully enhancing their enjoyment of your company. Very simple. Moving into the next section, we're looking at specific archetypes of men, and we want to talk about whether you think you fit into this category of one of these archetypes, or maybe you're an outlier and you find yourself to be completely unique. So let's start with the pragmatic. The pragmatic man is rebellious, sort of style focused, but someone who wants to get the job done and doesn't want to be fussy or bothered with a lot of details of style, but he does want to look stylish. So if you find that you're that pragmatic man, you probably like to dress in a casual way with a little bit of elegant factors like a sports coat or a filled jacket, something more relaxed, but also very stylish. These pragmatic men can actually be something that women like a lot because they're to the point, they're not game players. You know, somebody that you can take seriously and at their word. So a drawback to being the pragmatic archetype is that you might forgo in the woman's mind her feeling like a princess at an outing, say in Paris, or maybe she's not going to expect going to many formal events. Or maybe that could be something that would make her feel a little sad. So maybe you want to surprise her with different types of adventures, like a boat trip or you name it. Something that's more up your alley but would still seem romantic and exciting. So now we're going to do something that's kind of fun. Hugo has made a recommendation for each archetype in terms of the dream shoe for the archetype. And for the pragmatic man, we have the Alden left-foot naval boot. We'll take a look at that and see what you think. The next archetype, and I've got to look it up and change pages. The second type of archetype is called the minimalist. The minimalist is a man who wants to own the best, make no compromise, and no exaggeration. In fact, I would say Hugo's probably falling into this category. The intention of the minimalist is to play it safe, have the necessities, and not be fussy or worrying about anything superfluous. Okay, in a woman's view, this is also very good for her because she feels safe, and women do enjoy feeling safe, but she also may want a little bit of unpredictability. So maybe you actually have a few surprises from time to time that she wouldn't predict, and this is, I think, an obvious recommendation that if you find yourself to be a minimalist that you may want to do. Now, for Hugo's recommendation for the dream shoe for the minimalist, he recommends John Lobb Oxfords. And we have a photo of one of these that you might enjoy looking at and maybe considering to add to your wardrobe. The next section will address the man that we're going to call the dashing man. Now, I know you know some men like this. There are those men that can wear a silk scarf perfectly and look totally masculine and like they know what they're doing. They're sort of a guy that has ruthless flair. They can mix vintage and modern at the same time. They look like they just flew in from, say, New York, Milan, Barcelona, Paris, or maybe even just came back from the opera. It's that type of guy who looks very put together. But the question becomes at some point, is this man approachable? I think the intention is to look more metropolitan, but maybe something that's not intended is to make a woman wonder, is this man approachable and will she measure up? to this person who looks so well put together. So a recommendation would be, if you find yourself to fall in this category of dashing, just a smile. A smile always puts people at ease. So in this particular category, it's especially important to smile and make people feel comfortable. For Hugo's recommendation for the dashing man, he has recommended a Gaziano and Girling whole cut with a wingtip perforation. Very nice recommendation. I think that you might agree when you give the shoe a look. For the fourth category of archetypes of men, we're going to look at the circa 1800s guy. Everyone likes this guy. He looks warm and he looks like he has a deep intellect. He usually is wearing a waistcoat. He may even put the pocket watch in the waistcoat. He's loyal and he looks wise. And I would say he's approachable but also composed. This is a man you'll see smoking a pipe, maybe wearing a collar pin. He lives sort of on his own terms, and maybe he also lives in his own head, more of that cerebral type. And so a woman, this is his intention to be approachable, but a woman may also wonder, is he going to pay attention to her, because he's very cerebral in nature. So in this case, I would suggest for you, if you find that you fit into this category, that you do something really down to earth, like gardening, some kind of fitness thing to bring you just down to earth and make you more real and take you out of that realm of total cigar smoking, whiskey drinking, and culinary adventures. For the circa 1800 man, Hugo has recommended the Laszlo Vaz Oxford. And this is, you can see as mixed textures, and it's very elegant for the circa 1800 man. And so now we've gone through 4 types of men's style, and we've discussed a little bit of which category that you fit into. Again, nobody can be put into a box, but I really like how we can break down these different types of men and sort of explore, what your type is in your own mind and where you want to go in either direction. So let's continue with the number 5 archetype. And this is countryside elegant. When I see a countryside elegant person, I think it might be somebody who plays banjo, maybe a rugby star, maybe a professor. But this type of person is adorable, warm, funny. He may wear a newsboy hat, bow tie, rugged scarf, corduroys, maybe a checked pocket square, or the elbow patches on his sport coat, textured suspenders, something like more, more rough look, but also elegant. The only downside I could see to the countryside elegant persona would maybe be if the woman was wondering if this was some type of Robin Hood wanderer in life. So maybe you want to do a few type of grounding things, like clean the kitchen, for example. Now, I don't know, you decide, but maybe present yourself also as a grounded person. The shoe Hugo recommended for the countryside elegant gentleman is the Weston Chasse shoe, which is a split toe and a gorgeous shoe. He actually had his resold after 10 years, so quite a sturdy shoe as well. Now let's move on to the 6th type of style, and that is the futuristic archetype. I bet you know a few of these type of men that relay this persona. They're sort of cutting edge, they understand technology, probably like sci-fi movies. They look like they're a mix of retro and the year 3000. You may see them wearing turtlenecks, or some people say roll necks or polo necks, underneath a jacket or suit coat. Very edgy look, but even military. You might see them wearing a military overcoat. These type of men usually, in my opinion, have an intentional purpose. They have a geek suave. You can count on them trying to help you with any type of technology problem that you might have, and they'll usually display patience even if they're not feeling it. So these men could maybe be a little more down to earth in a woman's view, and just make them feel a little less incompetent in these areas that sometimes we and other people struggle to master. For this area, Hugo has recommended the shoe, the Corte Arca buckle shoe. And you'll see, when you look at this shoe, you automatically see a shoe that will probably be popular decades from now. It looks very futuristic. The final type of persona we will address is what we call panache, or what you may know as the dandy. These type of men have no boundaries. They're magical and they look fantastical. They're the type of guys who are so well put together that women may go to them for style advice. I would say they're complex and alluring in the way they dress. And they mastered patterns and colors really well. And it's sort of a rarefied look where they can mix numerous things and still look very simple, which is an unusual gift for a guy to have and very impressive when you see it. You may see these guys in border hats, mixed patterns, and again, the numerous accessories, which are not made to look busy at all because they're so fluid and well put together. And people will respect them for that. But perhaps an unintentional message would be that they're a little bit fussy and obsessed with themselves. And so I think this can be countered by making sure that the person that is considering himself a panache individual focuses on other people from time to time and makes that very apparent. The shoe that Hugo chose for the panache individual is the buttoned Balmoral boot by Bonafé. It's a lot of B's, but it's a beautiful choice for the man who is more panache or dandy, shall we say. Carl Jung spoke about reconciling the outer self with the inner self. And in this review, I'm hoping that maybe you saw some identifying factors that may resonate with you, but maybe you also saw some archetypes that appeal to you, and then maybe you want to adopt for yourself and bring those to life. But in terms of the persona, you really have to think about who you are, and how you truly feel on the outside. What do you really want to relay to other people? If you do this, then you will naturally start revealing yourself and your outward persona. And so to wrap things up, I do want to thank Hugo for his shoe recommendations. And I do want to encourage you to just adopt the process, to try to reconcile your outer self with your inner self. And don't be afraid to show who you are step by step. So until next time, thank you for watching this episode of Sartorial Talks, and cheers.